Ryan from R&A Music, deep in the heart of Texas. That's where I'm at right now, this very second, believe it or not. Well, I thought I would do a playing video for you guys. I haven't really done one in quite a while. We've done a lot of FAQ stuff and a lot of Chapman guitar stuff, which has been awesome. But I thought I would actually do a little instructional video today, and it gives me a little chance to show off my new Fender Nashville Deluxe Tele that I got. I'm not a Fender guy, really, so this is new to me. It's pretty interesting though. This is going to answer two questions. I've had one question where somebody asked me to do a little tutorial video on how to play the background music that you see in a lot of my videos. So I'm going to do that, but I also had a question on one of our FAQ videos about how to write riffs. So I'm kind of going to do both those things right now. So this is how to write some riffs and then how to play one of my songs. Well, there's really no one answer to how to write riffs. There's several approaches, of course. You can take sort of the theory approach, which if you know your theory and your, how scales and keys and all that stuff works together, you can use that knowledge to craft a riff, which is cool. Sometimes I'll do that. I'll think about what key I'm in and what notes are in each key or in what mode and all that kind of stuff. There's also just sitting down and going for it and just hitting a bunch of notes until you find some that sound good together. There's that approach, and then there's a blend of the two, and there's really no one perfect way to do it, but I'm going to tell you kind of how I did it for this particular song. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to write a song. I wanted to write some music, which I'm in the middle of working on, an EP, and I kind of wanted to have a certain sound. I kind of wanted a certain feel. All right, now one of those was, I'm in Texas, obviously, and that's kind of a part of my life. And I also really like hard rock music, like Metallica, Guns N' Roses, AC/DC, Pantera, yeah, Sepultura. So some hard rock and some metal. That's kind of the kind of music that really just gets me going. So I wanted to write something hard rocking, but I wanted a little bit of some somewhat Texas-y, southern-y flavor to it. There's nothing more southern-ish and classic rock-ish and hard rock-ish than pentatonics, right? So your pentatonic scale is your friend. And I was in drop D, so I knew we were going to be working around the D as a primary kind of note, right? So I kind of came up with this pentatonic pattern. This is a very pentatonic thing to do. Go to your 5th string, 3rd fret C. We're going to go from that C to your 5th fret, 5th string D. Pentatonic, right? Now you can continue 3/5, 3/5. We're kind of floating between keys here. I'm sort of doing D minor pentatonic, but also a little bit of D mixolydian, which is the same as G major. So we're kind of floating between a major and a minor blues kind of thing. But the main riff comes from, hey, I'm in D. I want to do some pentatonic-y, something with a little sort of southern flavor to it. So the main riff of this tune, I'm going from C to D. And then going to the next string, same thing. Very pentatonic, right? But I wanted to repeat it, give a repeating pattern. From C to D, some palm mutes. All right, so that's where it starts. Now, in drop D, it always sounds nice to go to 5th fret, 3rd fret, open. That always sounds great in drop D. So I like the sound of those chords. thought, man, let's combine those things. So the song starts off, and then your drop power chords on the 5th fret, 3rd fret. This whole thing revolves around 3rd fret and 5th fret on your 6th, 5th, and 4th strings, right? Let me get in close. Then we move up to the 4th string. That's a typical pentatonic thing to do. So there's the opening riff. That all just sort of came from, hey, I like D power chord, right? And then D minor pentatonic, 5th position, and just kind of jamming on it. Now, here's something, the way that the song starts. You have a riff, sounds great down low. Play it up high first. Very Cowboys from Hell. They do this. He starts the riff up an octave, then drops it. So this riff actually starts, if you want to play it, starts up here on the 15th and 17th fret. So anytime you want to add some interest, you know, take the riff and play it in one spot and then drop it down lower. Sounds great. A lot of people do that. It's pretty common. It's not just in Cowboys from Hell, it's in a lot of places. Most of my notes are coming out of the D minor pentatonic scale, and you could play that on the 5th fret, 5th string, your basic pentatonic position 1, starting on the 5th string. There's your pentatonic. So all the notes are kind of coming from that. We're just in a different position because of the drop D stuff. So there's the opening of that song, and then, you know, I think I was just jamming around on it, and I like the sound of it. All right, so there's a chunk of the song. That could be an intro, that can be a verse, it can be a chorus, it can be whatever it is. It's a riff. That whole little thing is the riff. Riff A, I guess you might call it. Alright? Well, that's just one part of the song. So we gotta have, you know, you can't just have a song that has one part in, unless you're Blake Shelton. So I'm gonna play the next part, the next section of my song here. I'll play it, and then I'll explain what I'm doing. Here we go. Basics of it. There's another part coming next. So here's what I'm doing. Well, we're chugging around on the low D there, because that's sort of the main focus point of this tune, I guess. But then we're going to go into this major third. I love that. Sometimes I'll write riffs and I'll use kind of different power chords. You know, a regular power chord is a root and a 5th. Like, you know, there's your regular D power chord on the 5th. of using a little 5th dyad power chord, I'll use a major 3rd, where we're going to play the 5th string, 5th fret, and the 4th string, 4th fret with our index finger. Still just a 2-note chord or dyad. But instead of playing a root and a 5th, like a power chord, I'm going to play a root and a major 3rd. You're basically playing 2/3 of a major chord. I just like the sound of it. Got that from Pantera? Yes, Pantera, because interestingly enough, Dimebag Darrell would not always use just plain Jane power chords. We used these different chords that were pretty simple to use but sounded great. That major 3rd one is really interesting because you wouldn't think a real heavy metal band like Pantera would have majory stuff. But he kind of does. Here and there, he'll slip that in there, like the blues. Right? So I love that. I love the sound of that. So I wanted to use it. And I would do a slide up from, take that same chord on the 2nd and 3rd fret. And I slide it up to the 4th and 5th fret. So we got some D notes, give it a little vibrato, and then we're chugga chugga on the low D. Yep, then I go to just a regular C power chord on the 3rd and 5th fret. Then to what is a G power chord on the 5th fret of the 6th, 5th, and 4th string. Let me tune. Dang Fenders. C power chord, G power chord, so I'm doing pinky and first finger there on that C, G, then I do this little, it's the little blue note from the pennant. So I'm dipping into the D blues scale there. So it starts off chugga chugga, C, little blue note, flat 5. So continuing on, the next part, it's very similar to the first part. First part goes like this. That little 3rd dyad. Do that little da, dugga, dugga. But instead of sliding to that, I actually do go to the regular D power chord. So the second half goes da, dugga, dugga on the D to a D power chord on the 5th string. Then dugga, dugga. And now I go to what would normally be an A power chord if you were in regular tuning. But it's not because we're in drop D. 5th fret, 6th string, and then 7th fret of the 5th string. This is another one of those funny intervals. Instead of playing a regular root 5 power chord, this is actually going from the root, which is a G, to a major 6th above. Which sounds pretty cool. It's another one of those things that's kind of unexpected. Everybody expects us to play just regular power chords all the time. But you can change it up and throw these different ones in there. It keeps it interesting. So it goes from that 5, 7 to back to the back to the regular one finger root fifth power chord on the fifth string. So it goes da, dugga, dugga, D chord, dugga, dugga. Here's this major sixth interval to a regular power chord, and then we hammer to the little flat 5. So that's the second part. It's vibrating. That's the second part. I'm still just fooling around. From a riff writing viewpoint, it's still based around, I'm hitting a lot of D's, obviously. I'm hitting some C's. I'm hitting a lot of G's. There's a G6 to a regular G5. G, C, and D. But I'm just getting there in interesting ways. And a lot of it was just feel, like, hey, I like the way that sounds. I love these odd chord shapes. Instead of playing regular power chords, to play those other intervals. All right, now the next part of the song, there's really only one main part left, I guess. It gets a little heavier. It's just all drop D, 6-string, chuggy stuff. Which is kind of more into the D minor blues. We got open, we got third, we got fifth, we got sixth. Pretty simple, really, if you did it on one string. Then we do that little major third slide on the fifth string. Still all D's, basically F's, G's, and G sharps. That's where it's more into the D minor pentatonic. And that's basically it. On that part, I'm just finding notes on the low 6th string that I think are cool. Oh, this just sounds great. It's more based on sound than the theory part of it, but. Get that little major slide. And that's pretty much the majority of that song. I think I have one other part I'm working on to it, but that's pretty much it, right? Pick a key or pick a tuning, and then, you know, you may not know scales and modes and all that crap. You might just know, hey, I really like this D. What other notes work well with D? Well, you know, other D notes, notes from the D minor scale, pentatonic. Take those other notes from the D pentatonic scale, turn them into chords. You know? And then there's one approach. It wasn't real theory heavy. I mean, I know how the theory works. I know it's using a lot of D mixolydian. It's using a lot of D minor pentatonic, D blues. But I didn't overly think that stuff, other than thinking, hey, I want to use pentatonics in this, but not your normal position pentatonic, a different position. So the theory can be helpful, but it's not the only way to do it. Start out with notes that you like. Find other notes that you like that go with it. Find one note. Find another note. Find another. Oh, that's great. I like that. Oh, that sounds nice. Let's make a riff. You're stringing together notes that you like the sound of. So that's one approach. I don't know if that really answers your question a lot about riff writing, but hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight into one way that you can start to take your riffs and put them into songs. I might do a couple more videos about this because I think it's really fun and interesting, really. I like writing stuff. I think it's good. And I think it's not as hard as everybody thinks it is. Sometimes we overthink things and we make it too difficult. And it doesn't really have to be difficult. It should be fun. So, there you go. There's a bit of how to play the track that I use as background music in a lot of our videos. It'll be on my EP once I get finished writing it and working on it all. And there's how you play a little bit of it. Talk to you soon. Keep the music alive.